An honorary Pattersonian, you can boast to the world that this is where we believe Palestinians are making a positive impact. We call this PACC. It's not a political action committee. It's a Palestinian American Community Center. Is that what we are? That's what we all are. Palestinians, Americans, and we're one unity. And that's why we welcome you, one of 14, a success story from Detroit, Michigan, who didn't speak any English, and now she represents us in the United States House of Representatives. That's quite a story. Yalla, Zefu. I saw some of you wanted to clap. So it's my honor to present to some of you and introduce to the rest our distinguished guest of honor, a proud mother, a wise woman, the first Palestinian American elected to the U.S. Congress, Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. So I just have to say, so not only that, we always outwork everybody, and I continue every single day with my presence in the United States Congress, outwork hate. Just my mere presence there, but also through the amazing, incredible 13th Congressional District of Michigan that I represent, which is predominantly African American. My neighbors, my black neighbors, believe in me, support me, uplift me. Many of my white counterpart neighbors in the outside of those neighborhoods of Detroit have uplifted me, have brought me into their homes, have supported me. And one of the things that's so incredible about this American story, and it is something you share with your children, please. Because Ilhan Omar and I do not represent predominantly Muslim or Arab or Somali community or Palestinian community. Our community majority do not at all share our ethnicity, our faith, and that's the incredible story, American story that nobody tells. Is the fact that Ilhan, who has 70% white community, mine, predominantly African American community, got elected by fellow Americans, again, that don't share our faith, our ethnicity, our background. And mashallah, we should all be incredibly proud of that. Also, our history now is full of so much hope and light during this time of darkness. And one of the things that I think for me, growing up in the most beautiful, blackest city in the country, in the city of Detroit, is that every corner is a reminder of the civil rights movement. Every corner is a reminder of the labor rights movement. And so when people ask me all the time, where do you get your strength? And I said, I have all these mothers, and that's how it was, just like the bed, like the village. Everybody was your mother. That's how it is in Detroit. Every woman and every black, even when my mom didn't know it, somebody on the block told my mom what I was doing. And that's how I was raised. And you stick the little Palestinian roots, and you have yourself a warrior in Congress with these amazing, incredible mothers who taught me the pain of oppression, of being black in America, and how much of that reminded me of my ancestors and those right now suffering under occupation in Palestine. And, when I think about the 12 elected that you talked about, the diversity, or somebody had talked about, now we have 12 elected, Muslim, Arab, whatever the background, that's great, but make sure all 12 of them haven't sold us out. And that's the most important thing that I always want to put out there. It's great to have one of our own, but make sure it's people that are strong and courageous and won't turn their backs to us. This is who we are, and this is something that we need to continue to uplift, and thank you all so much for being who you are unapologetically. That to me inspires the next generation of Muslimin, Arab, any ethnic background. That's how they're going to be able to feel like they can really, really run for office and be who they are. Our Muslim community is very kind and generous. Our Arab community is even as much. I have a huge Arab Christian community outside of the district. And again, many of them try to say, well, you got the wrong ones. I'm like, doesn't matter your faith. They put us all up in one umbrella, and I consistently remind them. But we're kind and generous. And one of the things that I want our faith to lead us to farther is in fighting against structural racism. fighting against, the oppression of black and brown brothers and sisters all across the country. When I think of an organization like this one, and it so reminds me because everybody's looking at access and looking at, wow, look at them. But they were smaller than this. I don't know where Diep must have is, but it was smaller than this. It was a storefront down the street from where my grandmother lived, my Siti Shama, Allah Rahma. And it was small little storefront. You couldn't even fit maybe like 30 people in there, max. And it grew into now the largest Arab American human services agency in the country, but also one that does philanthropy, mental health, helping refugees settle, all of these things. But they're also at the forefront in a campaign called Take on Hate, where they're sitting there with Black Lives Matter, with those fighting against oppression and what's happening, folks, at the border. All of that, the intersectionality work that they've been doing, to me, has also exposed who we are in a very, very powerful way, and by uplifting others. And I think, when I think of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and I think of moments, I think, always telling my kids, he would be out there marching with women for their rights, right? And he would be out there demanding that children be reunited with their mother and their fathers. He would be at the forefront fighting against all forms of hate. And it's hard for me sometimes when our community is so silent and so just quiet about, when things are happening. I was at a Flint masjid, and this Muslim sister says to me, Rashida, I don't understand, why isn't anybody speaking up for us? Why isn't anybody doing anything? And I said, well, what did you do when he said Mexicans were rapists? What did we say? What did we do? We were so quiet. I grew up in a beautiful, diverse community, and I wasn't quiet. I kept speaking up. And it was very rare. Here I am, I'm sometimes one of the only Arabiya in the room speaking up. But mashallah, now I see a generation of our young people, they're out there marching with all of these different movements. And I think that is what's going to change people's conversation, not only on our beloved Palestine, but also about who we are as just fellow Americans. And I think that is what's going to be empowering to see. And what you see Ilhan and myself and representing these diverse, beautiful communities is that they have saw beyond our faith and beyond all of that. When I go door to door, I love telling the stories because I'm connecting with people in such a human way, direct human way. And I remember leaving a note on a woman in Redford Township in one of the communities outside of Detroit. And I go door to door myself. We did 55,000 doors, mashallah. And I leave these big Post-it notes. I was telling a lot about this, and it's really effective. Brighter the better. But I leave my cell phone, and I said, I'm sorry I missed you. And I said, one of the things I saw, which was really incredible, there's a big blanket. Huge blanket that had like the whole family picture on it. You ever see those? You can get them at like some of the pharmacy places. Huge. Don't go to Walmart. So I don't like Walmart. I just do Walmart. So this big blanket with the family on it. And I said, oh, really cool blanket. And I said, sorry I missed you. And then, we get an email, I think a day or so later, saying, thank you so much for coming by our home. That is the blanket. That's the picture. On that blanket is the last picture we took with our youngest daughter who died of cancer. And, of course, I get teary-eyed every time I think about it. But she said, thank you for also leaving the tree samplings that David Bonnier used to pass out. I don't know who was the dude. He used to pass out these tree samplings. And I used to drop them off to plant trees. I'm a big environmental justice advocate. Bless you. And one of the things that she said is she's going to plant it in her memory, and that again, it just meant so much for her to have me come to her home. I also am, mashallah, the eldest of 14, and I always tell people if there's anything, it's not my law degree or anything, it's being the eldest of 14 probably prepared me best for public office. They're very interesting. So, as you all know, I'm very much an activist. I not only have a potty mouth, but I've always had a different style. This is just who I am. And those that follow my career know I have laid myself, literally, because I'm a falah, I laid myself in front of trucks that were illegally going through my neighborhood because a billionaire refused to hear the judge. A judge literally wouldn't hold him in contempt. It was so hard to get them to remove the trucks from the neighborhood and build an interchange connection. I was a sitting state representative. I was so frustrated. I felt so helpless. because 1 of 5 children have asthma in my district. And I think in that zip code, it was 3 times higher rate, I think it had 3 times higher rate of asthma hospitalization among adults. So it was a really community that's been suffering for so long, and the federal government gave all this money to a billionaire that owns a bridge to Canada, a private person. And he refused. He built a 2 duty-free gas stations, some duty-free store, and decided, I don't care, and he allowed 10,000 trucks to come across from Canada into the neighborhoods. And so I got so upset. So we went, 12 of us, and blocked his trucks for almost like 45 minutes. International trade. That's right. And it was incredible. And you know, that's just the person I was, and people are like, you're crazy. But you know what happened? He ended up going to jail for 1 day, a billionaire that kept disrespecting our community, Michelle. And let me tell you, then all of a sudden those trucks started getting it, and then they finally got it off the main streets. But when I did that, I did it because it was the right thing to do, not because, oh, I'm a state representative, I can't be doing those kinds of things. But it was things that, to me, I felt like, as a Muslim, like, what anybody else would, I mean, this is the things that you have to do to uplift other people. Is my presence being there probably prevented people from getting arrested, probably prevented people from getting hurt, and then my presence alone just uplifted them in so many ways. And a Catholic priest called me, Father Tom, and he was like, I'm so amazed, I really thought he was going to get away with it, until you came along. And later down the line, you know, this is the same billionaire. He fenced off this public park that we have, Riverside Park in Southwest Detroit. It's the only riverfront access park. And you're thinking, okay, look at him. He just literally put fake Homeland Security signs, and he just put this fence up. I couldn't believe it. I was like, no way. The city sued him, and they found him. They basically found him trespassing. They said, look, you are trespassing. You have 90 days to remove the fence. He refused. So what did we go do? We went and cut the fence down and removed it ourselves. And what made me so proud, and again, this is a community that has never, ever let me be who I am. And we removed the fence, and at that moment, I think the media was like, you know, why are you doing this? And of course, I answered and said, because they're legally trespassing. We have a court order right here that said they were supposed to remove it like 6 months ago or whatever it was. And one of my other residents, they asked her the same question. And she said the same kind of thing. And then she goes, plus, our state representative is Palestinian, and you can't illegally occupy land in her district. It's so great. Now, fast forward from me taking on the Koch brothers, you know, and when the state of Michigan, before Flint even happened, they said, oh, it's not cancer, it's not toxic, don't worry about it. I didn't believe them, so I got it tested myself. I trespassed and got the allegedly trespassed is what we're saying, and got the actual petroleum coke material and got it tested. Fast forward again, the candidate for president comes about a mile away from my district, or where my neighborhood was, and he's coming to speak. And I had just finished my term up. I would serve 3 terms in the legislature. So I wasn't a state representative, but they called me and they said, look, there's 12 other women, 11 or 12 other women. We're gonna go to the conference center because Trump's coming to speak and they're not allowing us to ask questions. So we get tickets, we get in. And every 2 minutes, a woman would get up and interrupt with a question. What do you think about labor rights? What do you think about, you know, sexual harassment in the workplace? All of these things that were important to every woman and everything that they brought forward. I was like number 7. And I remember getting up and I was scared because the crowd was what scared me the most. They were hitting the women, they were violent. And this is like the Detroit Economic Club. This is like the prestigious, you know, business sector of the community. And they were violent towards these women. And you can see it on video if you just go, you can see it. Research it, you'll see every moment where people are pulling the women, kicking them. And so as I get up and I started yelling, have you ever read the United States Constitution? You should read the United States Constitution. And they're trying to get me out, you know, and if you ever look at the video, I'm like, you know, because I'm a falah, you know. So I'm like, you know, I know how to do stuff. I know how to like move around and you know, they're not gonna get me. And then of course they finally get me and they pull me out. My brother calls me, he's like, bro, I'm so proud of you. I was like, Nader, I've done this stuff before, it's not a big deal. He's like, no, sis, Everybody else needed like 1 Secret Service, 2, you needed 6 to take you out. And I was like, okay, whatever. He's like, and then my brother Rashid, there's a Rashid and a Rashid in my family. And so my brother Rashid goes, honestly, he goes to me, Yama is so mad, my mom, Yama is so mad at you. She's like so upset. She's like, look at her. ليش بتسوي لي مشاكل دايما؟ ليش بتسوي هيك فيا؟ يا الله بدك تغلبني and all this stuff. And I was like, whatever, Rashid, and then she called my sister Layla. Layla called, everybody's calling me and they're like, Mom thinks you're in jail. And then I call her. I honestly did call her. And she's like, شو في السجن? I said, Mama, شي في السجن وأنا بتلفن عليك من الcell phone. And then she goes, ليش دايما إنتي لازم تعملي هيك. ليش دايما إنتي. And I was like, Yama, this is the most American thing I could have ever done. And she goes, yes, it was. But our moms, she said, it doesn't matter what we say. So راحت تصلي الجمعة. I've been telling the story. راحت تصلي الجمعة. عبرت الجامعة. She goes, literally the masjid is open. She's coming in. This is from her French. All of them, ما شاء الله عن بنتج مكواها. الله خليك إياها ما شاء الله عنها. All this stuff. And of course, my mom's like, So راحت تفرض علي ثاني يوم. She calls me the next day and she goes, I said, شو زعلانة الساعة? She goes, no, I'm proud of you. I said, يعني it's because صاحباتش قالوا لك يعني it's okay. And خلاص you got the rubber stamp يعني it's okay. But my mother is an incredible woman because, she is somebody that's so compassionate. She grew up in Palestine in Beit al-Foka. And she only went up to the 8th grade education. My father, only 4th grade education from Beit Hanina. And mashallah, when I started school, I didn't speak English, like the mayor said. And I, being the eldest of 14, I've been taking care of people all my life. I was my mother's translator until I was 12. Even then, my mom says, "It's min zaman tsawi li mashakil." And I said, oh yeah, whatever. She reminds me of the time we went to Sears. Do you guys remember Sears? And the woman's, I'm translating to the woman what my mom is saying. And everything the woman is saying, I'm not translating, right? But the woman starts getting, I don't understand. Why doesn't she just because I'm asking her, of course, if you ever gone with your immigrant mother, it's like, how much does this cost? Can you bring it? Yeah. I think, Wallah, they did the scanner, self-scanning because of the Arab moms. I'm positive. So yeah, I'm positive. So my mom is telling me, ask her, if in Arab she goes, ask her, what's this? And I got a coupon or whatever it was. And the woman is just getting frustrated, yells, and gets in the face. And then, the woman's like, she should just learn English. I said, excuse me? Do you notice that I'm not translating what you're saying? I'm only translating what she's saying, because she can understand everything you're saying. But she refuses to speak because she has a heavy accent, and then you're still yell at her and still say that she doesn't know how to speak English. And then, my mom is like, oh. And then we leave, and she goes, how am I going to go back to the Sears now? And I'm 12 years old at the time. But that's who I am. Ilhan Omar actually got me a bracelet that says Mama Bear, because I don't like anybody picking on any of my sisters, and I get on them always about, back off. But my mom is so wonderful in that, after he won, she smiles like me all the time, even when she's crying. And my mom, when she won, she was at the supermarket. I even called her. I said, Mama, be careful. I feel like this is giving the green light. We all felt it. Like it gave the green light for hate. You felt it immediately. There's nobody that didn't shed tears or at least had this anxiety feeling that all of a sudden we didn't feel like we belonged. Like we felt like we got rejected. So my mom goes shopping, and my mom wears the hijab very tight. She likes it tight because she likes to put the cell phone. Me too. When she's talking to her friends. And some guy starts yelling at her, take it off. Take it off. He won. Take it off. And my mom's like to her sahibta Miyasa. She goes, wait 1 second. She goes, sorry, you don't understand. She says this to everybody. Jesus was born in my country. And I was like, Mama, Anjed, that's what you told him? She goes, yeah. I go, and what happened after that? She goes, I said, that's what's going to happen. He's going to keep yelling at you. But she truly feels the way to tell a story of Palestinians, somehow connect with people. She taught me that. And to say, look, Bethlehem, that's where she's right. I'm from the same land there. I'm from the same people. You know, she just feels like people just know. And that's who she is. And she gives me a sense of, like, for me, a sense of hope, because the purity of my mother and the fact that she comes from just a place of love, she is so much a reminder of why I fight so hard. And, you know, I'm there. And even when we won, we didn't believe we won. And even as the next day, you know, my city gets up, of course the media is in front of her. I have a living grandmother in the West Bank in the occupied territories. And I remember seeing the videos of my grandmother crying because they showed her hands too. It's funny because I used to stare at my city Muftia's hands all the time. There's always wrinkles. She's a farmer. And it's funny because every time I FaceTime my city or I talk to my city or anything, but FaceTime especially, she's always got the thobe with the hole in it, and then she's always got it like lifted because she puts the eggs in the thobe, and then it's all right in the hepka that's like wrapped a little bit. But then when I saw the video of her getting interviewed, she looked like she was going to a wedding. Like she was like, oh, labs al hepka, like it was iron like straight, and the thobe. And she looked, mashallah, 10 years younger. She looked amazing. And then she says to me, I said, Siti, you look, mashallah, I shuftik ala television and all this stuff. She goes, yeah. And I said, Siti, oh, you know, because I'm telling her, this is not how it works. And she goes, khalas, halat Palestine. I was like, whoa, that's not how it works, Siti. That's not how it works. I have a lot of colleagues, and there's all, she goes, khalas, halat Palestine. I was like, and she put the whole pressure on me. And I just remember telling her, no, that's not how it works. But how to smash? Yeah, you have to scream on the phone. It's still really hard to talk to her. But there is a sense of hope that I want you all to know. It wasn't just, you know, here in our communities all across this country, but all around the world. For one moment, you know, from the women that were wearing the thobe to the young girls, it was just a moment of incredible pride. And it really, for me, even though I am such an activist that I want to free my people from poverty, from corporate greed, that's all I want, Yajran. Like, I fight so hard for that. But I'm also Palestinian, and I have a grandmother there. So I want to humanize the story, and I'm going to take, inshallah, people, I want to show them. I want to show them the human impact of being oppressed and feeling less than and dehumanized. And I, you know, keep saying to people, I didn't run to be the first of anything. I really didn't. I really ran because I felt the sense of calling, because I have 2 Muslim boys growing up in this country, and all of these things that I think make me the person that I am today. But it took this little girl in Sacramento, California. Her name is Rian. She's 8 years old. She comes up to me. She kept going like this. Like, she had like a blazer on. She had a regular shirt. She kept going like this. It's the mom cue. You're like, she wants me to notice the blazer. So I was like, nice blazer, Rian. She goes, like this. And I go, She goes, I'm trying to look like you. And I was like, oh, forget Congress, girl. I gotta run for president. And she goes, And at that moment, see, you're getting teary. At that moment, I thought to myself, oh my God, this is so much bigger than me. Amjad, it's so much bigger than me. That all these young girls and the Palestinian children take away. Nothing will let me sell my soul to those that will deny the truth. And organizations like PACC tell the truth. That's one thing they will never, ever be able to take away from us. They will be able to screw our words, try to tell us that we're somehow racist. But no. My ancestors died, and some had their land taken away from them to provide a safe haven for Jews. That gives me a sense of somewhat pride. And I want you to believe this when I say to you, that the tragedy of what happened and the fact that people wanted to feel safe, our ancestors had to suffer, and they continue to suffer for that. But I say enough. Enough. We're not going to deny the history that we are currently, the Palestinian people are currently being oppressed and segregated and dehumanized. Why can't we all be safe together? Why can't we all be equal together? And it was my African American teachers that taught me that when they were married interracial couples, they couldn't live in certain neighborhoods. Or because they were black, they couldn't live in certain neighborhoods. Because they were black, they were oppressed and constantly discriminated against and felt less than. They felt caged in their own communities. They felt the same oppression. And for me, that is the lens that I bring. I cannot divide that away from what I see is happening in Palestine. Just like when I look at the children, every time I see the children in the cages at the border, you know what I see? I see Gaza. I see Yemen. I see the things that are happening to other communities. And I want you all to please, don't be quiet when you see others being oppressed, because we lose credibility when we talk about Palestine, when we don't stand up for black lives, when we don't stand up against other people being oppressed. Because the same thing, the same people that are behind that, I want you to believe the same people that are behind that are the same people trying to deny who we are, deny our history, deny our suffering. So inshallah one day, Ya Rab, if my Sidi Abdullah couldn't get it, one day maybe my Sidi Muftiya will have some sort of human dignity before she dies. Because that's her homeland just like anybody else's. And so please know that as a little girl, I told Access this. I don't know where Diab is, but I told Access this. I told them, my mother was your client. My mother came through those doors. You know, just to read her mail. She used to bring her mail, just to read her mail. Came through those doors where I used to go to the rec center. And I used to learn about the depth gun stuff. My mother didn't know what the depth gun stuff. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, these are the things I learned about my heritage. Was from, like, Access. From being proud to also be Arabiya. I was so proud. When I walked at Access, I felt so proud to be Arabiya. All the time. And I learned about the Sham. Not Palestine, Lebanon, Sham. How we used to be together, the history. All of those things. You need to teach our children. They're not going to learn. You're going to assume they're going to learn. They're not. And I always say to Access, be careful. Now you got a congresswoman, a former client is a congresswoman. Maybe the next client that comes through the door is President of the United States, inshallah. And so, please uplift organizations like PACC that do tell the true story of the Palestinian struggle. And it's important because honestly, for me, even though I was born and raised in Detroit, even though I was born and raised in the United States of America, those roots and that story, just like for my black neighbors, my Latino neighbors and their struggle, they learned from their ancestors, from not only their history, it makes them stronger and more courageous. It actually reminds them so much to fight for others. So this history is so much more important than just being about freeing Palestine. It's also about teaching this next generation about how to fight for others, how to show people who we are in many ways through pushing back against oppression of others. So just remember that, and please know I will always carry you with me, but always carry me with you. I will never be perfect. Neither will Ilhan. We're never going to be the perfect Muslimin, the Arabi, the Somali, whatever the heck. We get more pushback sometimes from our own community. Don't do that to us. Please don't do that to us. We are always going to speak truth to power. But you can't push us back when we say something like, Yaret Masawad, oh my God, what does she do? Not only that, I hear from people, Rashida, Ilhan, all this and that. What are you talking about? She didn't do anything wrong. Don't let them gaslight you to believe that we're doing anything wrong. Because let me tell you, just yesterday, I was just showing the app today about them saying stuff to me about me on Twitter that I said about the Holocaust. I said, what? I don't do the Twitter game, by the way. I can't stand it. But I can tell you, they won't stop until they tear us down. And we're going to outwork it. We're going to really outvote them. I know it. You see it everywhere that more and more of us are coming out. And if I hear one more people say, I voted, I will look you up and I will find out that you lied to me. I do it to us, to our community. I can't stand it. They say I voted, you know we know who voted. Because they have a checkbox. You know we can look you up, right? There's a whole a file and we can look you up and it says your name and it says whether or not it's an X. I don't know who you voted for, but I know if you voted. So please, don't do this to my children and others by you not showing up to the polls and at least outvoting hate in so many ways. And I'm not talking just about the president. There are people in your own backyard, and you know who they are, that really do not speak for us, do not represent all of their people in their district, and that to me is unfair. You can do it through constituent services and everything and win elections, but to deny other people some sort of existence or some sort of way of speaking up, and you denying even their existence with your own district, that to me is wrong. So please just remember that. Remember when you go out to vote, vote, even if you don't like it, skip it, I don't care. But I just want them to see that our community is coming out. Because all the work that PACC is trying to do, and please support them. Everything they're trying to do will never really amount to anything if we're not also being civically engaged and actually voting and being participant. So thank you so much. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much, Congress Rashida. And we would like to honor Congress Rashida for coming here from our community. We'd like you to come back to stage.
Again, to welcome Representative Rashida Tlaib. We are very, very proud of you. We are very proud, first Palestinian, American, Muslim, Congresswoman. You made us all proud. You are a role model that a lot of the young generation are looking up to, and you opened the road. And we Palestinians, when we get into anything, we rule. We got into the supermarket business, we ruled. We got into the furniture business, we ruled. We got into the medicine field, we ruled. And now we are into politics. But we're very proud of you. The plaque says the Palestinian American Community, the Palestinian American Community Center presents token of appreciation to U.S. Representative Rashida Tlaib for her commitment, dedication, and continued pursuit of justice. May 12, 2019. Thank you very much.
Look at me, look.
Thank you everybody.